Hey guys, how is everybody doing? The year that was 2023 is now behind us. Now it is officially the year 2024. I'm gonna be old. But with that out of the way, I talked about my worst movies of 2023. Now I'm going to give you my most disappointing movies of 2023. Now, when I say disappointing, it does not mean the movie is bad. It just means I had high expectations walking into the film. I thought the film was going to be great, this one beautiful film basically. But I walked out of the film disappointed about the outcome I got. Some of these movies I still like, some of these movies I find enjoyable. I was just disappointed of what they gave me, and some movies I do see myself rewatching, but I'll just be disappointed from the final outcome. So it's not these are not some of the worst movies of the year, not one of the worst movies ever made. Just movies I had high expectations for, but the final outcome I got, I was just upset about. Coming in at number 10 is going to be No Hard Feelings. Now, I did not have a whole bunch of expectations walking to this film, but my dad, he bought this film and I saw a few trailers for it and I said, oh, that movie looks okay. But my dad and his girlfriend bought the film and they watched it together and they said it was actually really good and it was actually really funny. And I was really hoping that this movie was going to have some risk because I've grown tired of comedy movies now. They have just died because of the people that we have nowadays because they're all so sensitive and people making comedy films are afraid to offend nowadays because they don't want to offend anybody they don't want to get canceled or anything because people are just so goddamn sensitive in today's world that we haven't gotten a good comedy. And I was really hoping that No Hard Feelings was going to be that. You got Jennifer An- Jennifer Aniston Jennifer Lawrence, not Jennifer Aniston or Jennifer Lopez or anything. Well, why it was Lawrence? Why I don't know, but anything. But anyways, so you get Jennifer Lawrence in the lead role, who kind of became like one of those actresses that just look for really big roles, Oscar-winning roles. And I'm really glad she did this movie. It got a lot more respect out of me. And basically, her character is basically kind of a whore in a way, to where she sleeps with like almost every guy she can get her hands on and all that. And she's an Uber driver. Her car gets like totaled or something. Yeah, it gets totaled. She needs a new car, and this family that is on the internet says, if you take my son's virginity, if you show my son basically sexual ways and kind of like that, then we will give you our car. That is basically the entire film. One, that sounds like a great idea. I think you could be really funny with that. It could be one of those ranchy comedies that I've been really looking for. There are some pretty funny moments here, mainly the one scene in this movie. God, what is going on with my nose? There is a certain scene in this movie that, if you've seen the movie, you know the scene I'm talking about with Jennifer Lawrence. And I think almost everybody who watched this movie was really surprised that she actually did that. But I had a lot of faith in this film because I was really hoping this would be the one comedy finally to take some risks with this film, but it didn't. I thought the story was very generic. And then a lot of the turns that it was going, I was like, oh, I bet this is gonna happen. Before I even watched the film, I said, oh, this is gonna happen. This is gonna happen. And 99 times out of 100, it basically happened. And I was just upset about the final outcome. I was really hoping this would finally be the comedy that really saved the ranchy comedy era, and it just did it on suddenly. Coming in at number 9 is a film called Sisu, or something. I think that's how you say it. Sisu Schwartz? I don't know. But this film is a movie about a guy who is a who he's a miner. He was a Russian warrior or something like that. And then all of a sudden he finds a shit ton of gold. This is like after World War II, or is it during World War II? I think it's after World War II. And he mines gold. He finds a shit ton of gold, and then but as he's trying to get it to where he's trying to go, a bunch of Nazis show up, see that he has a shit ton of gold, and try to take it from him. And this entire movie is about a guy laying waste to a bunch of Nazis and killing the fuck out of them. That's a really enjoyable concept, and I do like seeing it. But I just really wish there was more to offer from this film. Now, I did like the final outcome. The movie is still enjoyable, but I just expected a lot more. When you get the concept about a guy that finds a shit ton of gold and lays waste to Nazis, they definitely do good with that part of the film. But I wish there was just more to it. I wish the Russian guy, the main character Sisu, actually talked in the film, because if he actually talked in the movie, and if we actually found out why he was going to, where he's going with his gold, I would have liked to know more. All we really know is that something happened to his wife or something like that, and he has a dog. That's about it. And I do actually remember seeing trailers for this film when this film was first coming out. I remember seeing trailers for it, and all the advertisements was don't worry, the dog does not die. I remember that briefly. And spoiler alert, the dog doesn't die. Don't worry, the dog doesn't die. I can assure you that. But I just expected a lot more from this film because I really wanted them to do more with the concept about a guy fucking up a bunch of Nazis. That's a lot of fun to watch, but there's so much shit going on in this movie with our main character that a human should not survive. Like there's a part that where they hang him, they shoot him, and he's still alive somehow. There's a part where he literally lights himself on fire and for like 10 seconds and then jumps into the water. No man in history would probably survive that. Like, a lot of the shit that this guy's being thrown at, I don't care how badass you are, I don't care you're a Russian warrior, I don't care that you served in the war. No man in history can survive all the shit that got thrown at him. And at number 8 is Good Burger 2. This was a direct to streaming, go right over Paramount Plus, and I didn't really grow up much with the first film. I did watch it a lot when I was younger. I remember my mom bought me the DVD of it and said, "Oh, you're gonna love this movie. It's so funny. You should watch it." I get to watch it when I was younger, and I grew up with the film, and I absolutely loved that film. I didn't watch it like on nonstop, on repeat, like almost every other kid from the '90s. That wasn't me, but I still did love the movie. But when they announced this film, I also just did not have a lot of faith in it. But I thought they could do like a cool concept that one of the characters from the first movie is like retired and then all of a sudden like he needs to go back to work and so he goes back to the burger store again. They kind of do that in this film. They do that with Keith in this film. But I just wish they did more with it because at the first place I did not have a lot of faith in the film whatsoever though. But trailers at the other hand did get me sold on it because I thought it could be like a fun little film. But unfortunately, some of the comedy just does not work for me. Like, the comedy in the first movie is actually really funny for being a Nickelodeon movie. But in this film, it feels like this generation's comedy to where it's just not funny. You got a bunch of fart jokes in this movie. You get, like, weird jokes that I don't like at all. I will not say that because I might get in trouble. But the comedy in this film just does not work for me whatsoever. And the story is very generic to where this really rich guy, he wants to buy the store, but they don't want to. Then he tricks them to accidentally selling it, and then the whole movie is them trying to get back to Burger Shop. That is the entire movie, and it's very generic. And when I was watching it, I was like, I've seen this movie 100 times already. Kind of like No Hard Feelings, everything I called, like I predicted, it ended up basically happening to where I was like, oh, I bet this is gonna happen. Oh, yep, this is gonna happen. And the third act of this movie is way anticlimactic for this type of film to where it's like, why are you having it being this serious? It's like this like whole like spy Mission Impossible type third act, and it's like, why? Does this film kind of capture that same energy that the first movie did? Kind of, but not really. It is an enjoyable film enough that I could see some modern audiences really enjoying the film. Maybe people who have never seen the first Good Burger movie but want to see like a more like modern version of the film. I could see why some modern audiences would prefer this film over the first movie. But for someone that just loved that first film growing up and just loves that '90s type feeling to it, I just didn't care for the movie too much, but it is still really enjoyable. Coming in at number 7 is a horror film I thought could be a great concept and a great horror film this year, but not quite. The Boogeyman. Now, when I first saw trailers for this film, it looked like type of movie to go direct to streaming, like direct to Hulu, and that was the intention in the first place. But what did give me faith in this film was what this is actually based off a short story by Stephen King. And this movie, like, he got to see it early. Some people had test screenings and got to see it early. And they said that this movie was so good that it doesn't need to go to streaming. It should go direct to theaters. It's such a good movie. And some of that buzz alone, I was like, you know what? Maybe this film will be good enough. Maybe this film would be good. My friend said that it looked so good, he wanted to watch it. I started to get hyped for it mainly because it was a Stephen King adaptation. And unfortunately, it just did not work for me. Some of these characters are very generic, especially the main character where she's grieving over the death of her mother, which I've seen in like 3 or 4 other movies this year. Like this is probably the first horror movie this year where I saw that. I saw Talk to Me, The Exorcist Believer, and all those movies have to do about grieving about a dead mother. It's like, oh my god, I've seen this twice already this year. And that was like, that alone was very generic. And it's like, dude, what? I've seen this before. And then this movie introduces the great concept about how the boogeyman is like, can't go into the light, which is a great concept because us as kids, we were afraid of the boogeyman because every time it was bright out, we would never see the boogeyman, but every time it was dark out, we thought there was the boogeyman in the dark. And I like the concept that it can't go into a light, but every damn time a character would go into darkness, I just kept screaming, "Turn on a damn light!" Because every room they would go into, they wouldn't have a light. You act like you don't have a fucking phone in your pocket that has a flashlight on it. It's like, what are you doing? Turn on a flashlight. And then there's like points of the movie to where the characters are just downright stupid, to where they'll go into the basement in the pure dark without any lights on. Why? First off, why would you do that? Character wise, they're fine, I guess, except for the main character because she's generic as fuck. But this film had so much potential, but it just wasted it. But admittedly, if they were to make sequels to this film, I would probably watch them because they might have some more potential there about like the boogeyman keeps following them or something like that. I would like to see a sequel to this film. I just want them to be smarter about the concept and with their characters. Number 6. This is a film I had a lot of faith in, but I was so let down by it. Strays. Now, I absolutely adore Will Ferrell. He is one of the funniest people alive. I would argue is the funniest person alive because love that guy. And Jamie Foxx, which I thought was an odd choice to be in this movie. I don't love Jamie Foxx, but I do like a lot of the movies that he's in, like Django and TASM 2 and No Way Home. But when I figured out those two were going to do a film together and it's going to be about dogs and it's going to be an R-rated comedy, that sounds like a great time, right? Especially with Will Ferrell being involved with it. That's probably going to be like one of the funniest movies of the year, right? Oh my god, this movie only had like 1 or 2 jokes that I thought was funny, and that involved masturbation and dick jokes. That was it. Every joke is a boner joke with dogs and dog poop jokes. That is the comedy that we're in for. And then there's like shit going on in this movie. Like again, I'm gonna sound like a broken record. It's a very generic story to where where these dogs are on an adventure, but it does introduce something that is interesting to where Will Ferrell's dog Reggie is going over to bite off his owner's private area. That sounds like a fun time, right? Oh no, it is. It's not horrible, but I was really let down about it because some jokes in the movie I just did not find funny whatsoever. Some jokes are funny, but some moments aren't funny, especially who was involved with this movie. It should have been better. And there's like a lot of dog jokes about like having with dogs having sex with each other, which is like awkward and it's like weird. It's like I don't want to watch that in a dog movie. That's not why I came here. I watched to see Will Ferrell and Jamie Foxx be funny in a movie together. It has its moments, but unfortunately, it only had me laughing like a few times. And my buddy, when I asked him what he thought of it, he went, "It's a movie." Coming in at number 5, The Flash. Now, I kind of debating putting this movie on my top 10 best movies of the year. When I first watched it, I did like it. I really enjoyed it. Second time I watched it, I thought it was pretty mid. And third time I watched it, I went, wow, when you watch this movie, you really see like a lot of holes in the film. Because, one, when this movie was coming out, this movie was so hyped. Like, Tom Cruise saying that this is one of the best movies ever made, that this is like the movie that we need in today's society. People coming out saying, "Oh, it's the best DC movie since The Dark Knight. This movie is going to save the DCEU and all that." But then the film finally comes out, and reviews come out saying that it's a pretty enjoyable film, but not the best DC movie. More reviews come out saying that it's really mid. Box office numbers, dear Lord. I finally go watch the film going in very cautious. I enjoy, like I said, the first time I watched it, I really enjoyed it. Second time I watched it, I thought it was mid. But when the third time you watch it, I still thought it was pretty mid. But you can definitely see a lot of the issues. Mainly the god awful CGI. Reason it's in my most disappointments of the year is the expectation of me going in thinking that this is going to be the best DC movie since The Dark Knight, the best DC movie in years. That was my expectation walking into this film. And then you watch it, you go, really? This is the best DC movie since The Dark Knight? The best DC movie since The Dark Knight is The Dark Knight Rises. Still, fight me. Look, I'm not saying this movie is bad. I don't think this movie deserves all the hate that's been getting recently, especially after it came out. People are saying, "Oh, it's so bad. Why did I love this movie? This movie's so horrible. It's so mid." People are saying that it's mid, saying that it's bad when they like people are saying it's mid, but they're also saying that it's bad. It's like mid means it's okay. Bad means it's just bad. Like get your heads out of your asses, people. Why it's on my most disappointments is because I went in thinking that this is going to be the best DC movie in years. One, I did still enjoy it. I mainly liked the dynamic between the two Barrys. I thought Ezra Miller, all controversy aside, he's a great actor in this movie, and I liked him. Seeing Michael Keaton come back as Batman was a dream come true, and it hit all my nostalgic bones from those Tim Burton movies. But the film with the CGI and some of the creative decisions in this movie is also just really disrespectful to some of the like other DC actors out there, mainly Christopher Reeve. It's like, why? That's just disrespectful. And General Zod, he's my favorite villain in the entire DCEU, but you can just tell that his actor did not want to be there. And at number four is M. Night Shyamalan's Knock at the Cabin. So basically, what this movie is that you get like a group of like 4 or 5 people. Was it four? Yeah, it was like 4 people, and they basically seen the future. The future that's about to come, that planes are start gonna crashing down. The world is basically about to end, and they go to this family and they say, only one of you has to be sacrificed. We cannot choose. We cannot make the decision. You have to make the decision. But every time you say no, one of us dies, and the world slowly starts to end unless one of you sacrifices yourselves. That is a scary concept, and especially with someone with a family, they would be devastated to hear that news. And there's like one character in here that keeps denying it. It's like, oh, you guys are just crazy. None of this is happening. You guys put that on the TV to make us think that the world is ending. None of this really happens. But unfortunately, the execution of the film is just not very good. The characters themselves, like the main, like 3 characters, I only cared about the daughter, really. The other two, I didn't really care for, but you kind of understand why they're cautious about it. And then this movie's like runtime, like it tries to show you who our characters are and try to get to know them more. But really, I felt we kind of got to know them when they were just at the cabin. That I kind of got to just know them when they were just at the cabin. I didn't need all of these unnecessary flashbacks. Dave Batista, I would argue this is his best performance and probably the creepiest. When I saw the trailer for this film, I thought they were gonna do like some kind of like creepy, mysterious type thing with him. But they kind of do that, but they also make him like kind of sweet and sympathetic because we find out he's a gym coach and all that. And then especially his faith at the end, kind of heartbreaking. Then I just the concept of the film is great, but execution wise, it just does not work for me. Coming in at number three was probably one of the biggest disappointments for me in a very long time. 65. This movie tells the story about Adam Driver, who's from the future, and he accidentally time travels 65 million years ago when dinosaurs exist. And the entire movie is supposed to be about Adam Driver versus dinosaurs. The entire movie. How do you mess that up? How do you mess up that great concept about Adam Driver from the future fighting dinosaurs 65 million years ago? How? Like, seriously, how do you mess that up? And to what makes this movie disappointing for me, and how do they mess up that concept? The very beginning of this movie just tells you that basically Adam Driver is a robot. The first like few minutes of the movie, it just throws that out there. It's like, oh, Adam Driver's a robot. We're not gonna do anything with it. And the entire movie is basically The Last of Us, but with dinosaurs, where Adam Driver is trying to save this little girl, going and just doing random shit, and then like, oh, dinosaur action, and 30 minutes of nonsense and walking around and talking and trying to give us character development. That is the entire movie. That is seriously the entire film that they gave us. Now, I'm not saying this movie is one of the worst movies of the year and not one of the worst films ever made, but I was so upset at how they messed up the concept of Adam Driver versus dinosaurs. And man, I love Adam Driver. He's such a great actor. And besides from The Force Awakens, the Star Wars movies that he was in weren't very good. And almost every movie this guy is in, he's been the best part about it, but he's just always starred in bad movies. And I wish the best for him because he's a great actor and he just deserves better. And this film alone just shows that he's been getting really shitty movies. Coming in at number two might actually surprise some of you. The Barbie movie, the biggest movie of the year, the highest grossing movie of the year. Now, when they announced this movie, I thought it was kind of dumb and I didn't know how they were going to do that. But trailers did kind of intrigue me and I thought they could do some fun things in there, especially Ryan Gosling as Ken. Oh, yeah. Margot Robbie as Barbie. Oh, yeah. Now you got my attention, buddy. And my buddies and I, we were all excited to watch this movie. I mean, it's a Barbie movie. Well, let's all be honest. We've all played with Barbies when we were young. Don't lie. Yeah, I'm looking at you. You played with Barbies when you were young. Don't lie to me. But this film, Barbie is a toy for children and has always been for children. It's been marketed towards children. This is not a film for children. If parents, if you watch this, do not let your like 4-year old or 5-year old watch this movie because this film is not for children. There's a lot of sex jokes in this movie. There's like a lot of jokes in here that just like don't fit for kids. There's unnecessary swearing everywhere in this movie. It's like, are we sure this is a kids movie? Because this is supposed to be about kids stuff. And the Barbie stuff with Margot Robbie, I just plainly did not care for it because there's like stupid things to where she's trying to figure out why she's thinking about all these dark things, and then they try to do this stupid bullshit thing to where apparently the person that plays with the doll and like that gives them their personality, like the character that plays with Margot Robbie's Barbie is saying about depression and death and stuff like that. I don't really care for that. That just makes no sense to me whatsoever. Like, and the movie's like very confusing to where it's like, well, if she's playing with the Barbie, then how does she come to life and go to the real world? They don't try to explain that. And there's clearly dudes playing Barbies in this movie. Not Kens, Barbies. There's a actual dude playing a Barbie. I don't know why they made that decision. I don't know if they tried to hide it. But if they tried to hide it, they did a shitty job because there's a character in this movie that is a Barbie. You could clearly tell is a man. I don't know if that was on purpose or they couldn't find a one actress to play another Barbie. You can clearly tell there's an Adam's apple on one of them too, and it's like, what? The only things I really saw myself really caring about in this entire movie is the Ken stuff. That's really the only things I saw myself caring about in this entire movie. Ryan Gosling carried this movie, especially the I'm Just Ken song, which broke the internet and has become one of the most popular songs in 2023. Probably will win an Oscar for Best Original Song this year. Only the Ken stuff had me interested, but just Barbie stuff alone, I did not care. And especially the real world things, generic and did not care. But unfortunately, coming in at number one in a film I was so excited about. I kept praising about it. I kept going to my family. I kept saying, so excited for this movie. I cannot wait for it. And it ended up being in like my top three most anticipated movies like ever last year. And that was Indiana Jones, The Dial of Destiny. I was so excited for this film. I was very cautious at the fact that Steven Spielberg was not going to return to direct, but James Mangold, perfect choice for a director, the man who directed Ford versus Ferrari, and Logan, which is a fantastic goodbye to Wolverine. And I thought he can bring that same passion that he did for Wolverine over to Indiana Jones and give him the actual goodbye that he deserves. But I did not feel that. I seriously did not feel James Mangold's passion in this film. Because when I heard he was going to be the director, and I heard that they were going to make another Indiana Jones with him directing, I was like, that is perfect. I don't. If Steven Spielberg is not directing, he is a person that I fully trust. And you can just tell Lucas's film's hands all over this film. They make jokes about Indiana Jones being too old for this, and they kill off his son in the background like it was nothing. I would have rather seen him come back and be in this movie. I don't like his character much, but I would have rather seen him actually die to see where I can see it and to where it's actually giving him more passion to go and get the Dial of Destiny thing. I would have preferred that. That's what I would have loved to see. But unfortunately, the characters, like secondary characters that we get here, are very forgettable. They're all stupid. There's like a guy in here that's like thrown away, and it's like, who are you? Why are you still here? And the entire film is basically just reminding us that Harrison Ford and Indiana Jones are old and can't be doing this anymore. It's like, dude, what the fuck are you doing? You are shitting on this character. You are disrespecting this character. But I will fully admit it's a better goodbye than The Kingdom of Crystal Skull. And I kept trying to tell myself that this movie was great. It was a fantastic film. This was the best goodbye to the character. This was one of the best movies of the year. But I just can't. I cannot keep telling myself. I can't just convince myself that this is a great film. I can't do that. This movie disappointed me the shit, and if this is the final Indiana Jones movie we get, I guess I'm fine with it because it's a better goodbye than Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. But if anything, the best goodbye that we got for Indiana Jones is The Last Crusade because you got that beautiful walking into the sunset type ending. That is a better good. Last Crusade was a better goodbye to Indiana Jones than the last two films that they tried to do with this fucker. I'm starting to think that the Indiana Jones is now cursed. There you have it, everybody. My top 10 most disappointing movies of 2023. Leave me your most disappointing movies in the comments below. If there are films on here that you actually really liked, if there's movies on here that you just downright didn't like, let me know in the comments below and we will talk about it. If you like this video, like it. If you love it, subscribe, hit the bell notification so you will get notified for my latest videos. And of course, until my next video, see you all next time.